It's 2025 and the only resolution you should be making is to watch more horror movies. What better tool to have at your disposal than a streaming platform whose catalog of movies consists of only horror movies? That was a rhetorical question. There is no better tool. Shudder is the best streaming platform where you can find endless movies, TV shows, and documentaries all within the horror genre. Don't believe me? Today we're going to be talking about 10 must-watch horror movies that are currently on Shudder, and if you're still a little skeptical, you can try it risk-free with a 7-day free trial using the link down in the description. The Others. It has been a while since this movie has been available on streaming platforms, so this is kind of a big deal. This classic came out back in 2001, and it definitely still holds up. It's a classic haunted house tale. Also, don't let that PG-13 rating fool you. The Others is one of the most haunting horror movies in cinema history. It doesn't rely on gore or cheap jump scares whatsoever. It's just a masterclass in atmosphere and subtle eeriness. Nicole Kidman gives one of the best performances in horror history. She takes herself and her 2 kids back to her family estate shortly after the Second World War to await her husband's return from battle. And her 2 kids have a disease that makes them super sensitive to direct sunlight. Odd things begin to happen, and Nicole Kidman's character becomes convinced that the house is haunted. I don't want to say too much about this film, but it has a plot twist that would have M. Night Shyamalan fans drooling at the mouth. If you haven't seen it before, go watch it. If you have seen it before, you probably know exactly what I want to say. I also didn't remember that Christopher Eccleston stars in this movie, but I also watched it before I saw his acting prowess in shows like The Leftovers and Doctor Who. Go take advantage of the fact that this title is now streaming over on Shudder. Critics hated The Thing when it was first released back in 1982, and everybody is biting their tongues now because it is regarded as one of the best horror movies ever. The Thing now floods many horror fans' top 10 horror movie lists. This stars a young Kurt Russell, and it's about a team of scientists and researchers who are stationed out in Antarctica, and they witness an incident with a Norwegian helicopter and this dog. And after this incident, they go to investigate the Norwegian base, which is nearby, and there they uncover a mysterious secret lurking within. The Thing is a perfect blend of body horror, psychological horror, and creature feature, and it's the perfect wintertime horror movie since it takes place in Antarctica, and it's going to chill you to the bone. The ending to this film has sparked conversations and arguments for over 40 years now. The practical effects are unmatched, and paranoia is also a big theme here. I recommend The Tunnel to anyone who loves As Above, So Below. This movie came first and I believe inspired movies like As Above, So Below. Though the movies differ plot-wise, I still think that they're on par with each other quality-wise. So just like in As Above, So Below, we're following a documentary crew, but instead of following a complex set of clues on the hunt for the Philosopher's Stone, which leads them to the underground catacombs of Paris, in The Tunnel, the crew is investigating these abandoned tunnels underneath Sydney, Australia, and they uncover a water conspiracy. Okay, on paper I can see how that might not sound as appealing, but believe me, the tunnel is creepy as fuck. The crew decides to take matters into their own hands and they head down into the tunnels themselves, exploring deeper and deeper into the tunnels, maybe going further than they should have. If you end up liking Tunnel, there's actually a documentary on Shudder as well, talking about the making of the tunnel and also the viral campaign that the filmmakers launched to get the word out there about the film. I'm a little over talking about Mad since I talked about it in like my last 3 or 4 videos, I think. Not to say that it's not a good movie, I've just been talking about it a lot, but I feel like it deserves at least one more video where I give it its spotlight, and then I'll probably take a break from talking about it for a while. Mads came out of nowhere last year, and it's a fantastic watch. It's a virus, outbreak, infection type movie. It starts off a little bit slow, but it ends up being one of the most chaotic movies I've ever seen. The film is done in one take, so we're watching a play-by-play of this virus outbreak unfold before our eyes. We follow 3 main characters throughout the whole thing, and I think all 3 actors put on amazing performances. What they were able to pull off with these limitations in making this film is impressive, and I just want more films in this universe because it feels like it could be the beginning of a whole universe of movies dealing with this outbreak. This is an underdog film that definitely deserves your attention. You ever had a bad date? Whether you have or not, you can experience vicariously a relationship that you're going to be pretty happy you're not a part of. Audition is a Japanese film about an older gentleman who is looking for a new partner and holds these fake movie auditions to try and find his new the one. Yeah, pretty scummy behavior. However, his search proves to be pretty successful because he does find a new woman to court, and we basically experience the beginning of their new dating life before it takes a disturbing and stomach-churning turn. This is a slow burn that keeps you interested in its build up to its climax and definitely does not let you down in its finale. Audition is visceral, unique, and just makes me feel weird inside. It's interesting watching what could be mistaken for a romantic drama turn into a disturbing horror film almost instantly, but holy hell is it worth a watch. If you're squeamish when it comes to gore and needles, anything of that sort, maybe stay away from this one because you're going to get a lot of that. This is a messed up ride you're about to go on if you decide to watch When Evil Lurks. This came out back in 2023 and it topped a lot of horror fans' lists that year, and for good reason. This is an Argentinian film and it's about two brothers who live out in the rural countryside of Argentina, and they find out that one of their neighbors is possessed by this unborn demon and they have to basically try to exorcise this demon and prevent it from being born. This is another one where if you have an uneasy stomach and you get squeamish on gore and disturbing things, then maybe skip it, but otherwise you're going to love this one. I'm willing to bet a lot of these images are going to be burned into your memory for the rest of your life. Just know there are no rules or limits as far as who's in danger of this film. I was bewildered by some of the turns it takes. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. Dog Soldiers is an action horror werewolf film, and that's either going to highly encourage you to watch it or instantly turn you away. But either way, that's exactly where you're going to get with this one. The film follows a squad of 6 British soldiers who are dumped off into a remote area of the Scottish Highlands to undergo a military training exercise. While doing this exercise, the squad finds a wounded soldier, the sole survivor of an attack nearby, and they take refuge in a nearby farmhouse as they figure out what they're going to do if these attackers decide to go after them next. Writer-director Neil Marshall wanted the focus to be on the soldiers in this rather than the werewolves, which I really appreciate. You get a good sense of the relationship between these soldiers, which makes some of the plot points later on hit pretty hard. Marshall also wanted to avoid cliches about werewolf curses and how awful it is to be a werewolf, stating that it was something that he thought was overused in other werewolf films, so you might see something in Dog Soldiers that you haven't seen in a werewolf film before. Worth giving it a shot. Stopmotion was one of those films that was kind of in limbo between being a 2023 film and a 2024 film, which I think was a part of why it got overshadowed by so many films last year. And I totally understand it. It's not an easy movie to fall in love with on the first viewing, but I think once you grasp the film's themes and what it's trying to say, there's definitely a lot more to appreciate on a second watch. I personally required a rewatch to get this one. To give you an idea of what you're going to get from this film, some of the main themes are grief and getting over your past trauma. The movie is called Stopmotion because our main character Ella is a stop-motion artist and she's working on a project with her mother. Ella is played by Eileen Franciosi, who was in the Speak No Evil remake. She was in The Nightingale and she was in a couple episodes of Game of Thrones. So she's got a great backlog of movies and she's fantastic in this. So in the movie, Ella's mother has arthritis, so she can't really do a whole lot of the building and animating of the film, and so a big portion of the work has been thrust onto Ella's shoulders. Unfortunately, Ella's mom has a stroke and becomes comatose, and so the rest of the film is just watching Ella deal with that, on top of becoming more and more obsessed with finishing this project. We witness Ella process all the things that are happening with her mother, as well as the piling stress of finishing this project, and it all just eventually leads her into a downward spiral. This movie has a very surreal, uncanny atmosphere, especially when we're presented with these ominous, eerie scenes from the stop-motion animation that they're creating. So yeah, I think it is just a very unique film that deserves more attention. If you want something a little bit more fun and lighthearted, then Superhost is for you. Superhost is about 2 vloggers who go to stay in a remote vacation rental to film content for their YouTube channel. I can't remember if they specifically say they're YouTubers or if it's some other platform, but they're essentially YouTubers. And I know what you're thinking already. Cringe. And you're exactly right. The couple's vlogging antics will probably get on your nerves pretty quickly in this one, but it's kind of one of those can't look away from an accident situations. I don't know, it's worth it to me. Anyway, they get to their vacation rental. It's basically an Airbnb, and their host is just very over enthusiastic about them being there, and she's very overbearing, and it just creates a lot of awkward tension between them. And her overbearingness just kind of ends up turning into something a little bit more menacing. The host character is what carries the movie for me. She's played by Gracie Gillum. I looked her up on IMDb. She has a couple other horror movies she's in. I'm definitely adding them to my watch list. This is a lighthearted psychological horror that blends vacation horror, influencer culture, and home invasion tropes into one entertaining package. It's perfect for viewers looking for something creepy but not too heavy. It's a fun, tongue-in-cheek romp that just doesn't take itself too seriously. The found footage phenomenon. I think this is the first documentary that I am recommending on this channel, which is kind of crazy because I'm a documentary kind of guy. I really love horror documentaries, but it's also probably my favorite documentary that you can find on Shudder right now. The title says it all. This doc dives deep into the best subgenre of horror, if you ask me, found footage. You learn about where it began, where it is now, and we hear from the creators of some of the best found footage movies to ever come out about their inspirations and process behind making these films. We spent decades with this film, going back as far as movies like Cannibal Holocaust and bringing it as recent as movies like Host and Death of a Vlogger, so there's a high chance that your favorite found footage horror film is going to be talked about. I'd go out on a limb and say that this is required viewing for anyone who loves found footage. But this also leads me to a question. Where does the horror audience fall when it comes to documentaries? Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? If you are a fan, I may have some others to recommend to you guys, so let me know down in the comments. Well, there you go, guys. That is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Shudder's catalog. They have so much to offer over on the streaming platform, and it's perfect for horror fans, especially if you're trying to watch horror all year long. Some streaming platforms only have the good ones in the month of October or around that time, but Shudder, they just got it going on all year long. And you know that that's what we're about here on this Nonstop Horror YouTube channel. You're going to get fun, exciting, and informative horror content all year long, and Shudder is a nice complement to that. If none of these movies intrigued you to go sign up right now, then I'm not sure what else to tell you, but if you still want to try it out risk-free, you can do a 7-day free trial using the link down in the description. If you know you don't even need a trial, you can sign up using that same link. And let me know the first thing that you end up watching on Shudder. Or if you already have Shudder, let me know what's on your watch list right now. I have way too many movies on my watch list, which I should probably go work on right now. So if you found this video helpful in your search for a horror movie to watch tonight, let me know by dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. And remember to embrace the fear all year long.